Good afternoon and welcome back to Shirts and Giggles. Thank you to everyone who's watched, liked, subscribed to any of the other videos or content. Really big milestone this week for the Instagram feed. We're up to 500 followers on there, so thank you to those of you that have followed the channel on there. Really appreciate it and really love seeing your engagement, so thank you. So last week we covered shirts we never have in our collection, and thankfully we haven't been cancelled yet.
Just yet, yeah.
Despite John's poorly advised German accent, I think, don't mention the accent. I think we managed to get through it. John's back.
I was trying to use my pronunciation of German.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to the show, John. It's great to have you back.
Thank you. Duolingo. I've been practicing Duolingo since then, so yeah.
This week we are going to talk about Holy Grail shirts, and it's obviously difficult to have any Holy Grail shirts on the show because they're shirts we haven't got by very definition. So in terms of what we're wearing this week, they don't necessarily link to the show in John's case, but I will come on to my shirt in a moment. So John, what have you got on today?
So this is a Nürnberg shirt again, Der Club. It's Duolingo again there. This is 18-19 season, I think. It's a nice, just classic white Umbro, some sort of bank, I think. Nürnberg bank, yeah. And the town of Nuremberg, that's like the castle or something. But yeah, Nuremberg FC.
Lovely. And I am wearing an Oldham Athletic 1994 goalkeeper shirt. I know what you're all thinking, but don't you hate adults wearing goalkeeper shirts? That is true, but I think I will make an exception for this one just to annoy my wife more than anything. We are talking about Holy Grail shirts today. This very much was a Holy Grail shirt for me in that it was the goalie shirt I wanted and spoke about in the goalkeeper episode. If you haven't watched it,
are we on location in the motorway service station? So
no, we are not.
No? All right.
Please do go back and watch the goalkeeper episode if you haven't. I ended up with the season's later goalkeeper shirt because this one, believe it or not, was sold out everywhere when I wanted it as an 11-year-old.
They don't get them like that anymore, do they? Look at that. Yeah, that's a good one.
It was an Umbro template, so I think Ipswich had the same goalie shirt, maybe even Chelsea as well, but it was an absolute classic and I wanted it since I was 11. I managed to get it last week, so big shout out to Global Football Shirts who I was able to get it for, and we won't talk about how much it cost.
I was going to say, all right, yeah, so there's a few things I'm not allowed to say on here, German accents and how much things cost, that's fine. Yeah.
So I have great memories of this shirt, although also heartbreaking memories because I picture John Hallworth in this goalkeeper shirt and that last minute equaliser in the 1994 FA Cup semi-final from Mark Hughes flying in past him, and unfortunately the club probably has never recovered from that, but this really was Umbro at its peak, I think, the 90s, and their goalie shirt. So it is, or was, a Grail shirt for me. Isn't anymore because I've got it, and I should say that it will mostly sit under the bed, I think, rather than being worn, certainly not in motorway service stations, John. So I guess to ask you to start with, John, what do you feel makes a Holy Grail shirt, or are there any Grail shirts that you feel like you've missed out on that you'd love to get your hands on?
So, and this is, let's have a bit of back and forth on this one. So do you think a Grail shirt is from a player? So for example, the shirt that Bobby Moore wore while, holding the World Cup, a player that scored a goal, for example, to win Champions League final or European Cup, whatever it might be. Or is it just a shirt that looks really, let's say for example, not that I think this is a Holy Grail one, but a Man United shirt, Cantona, the old green and yellow from like the early 90s. What do you reckon actually is a Grail shirt?
I think for me it's just a shirt that you've always wanted but can't get hold of, or it's challenging to get hold of for whatever reason. And that shirt could mean anything to you for any reason, really. For this one, I mean, it was really my first proper season of following football, and Oldham obviously had a really good cup run that year, and it sticks out in my memory. I was a goalkeeper as a young lad as well, so I always liked the goalkeepers. And I really wanted this shirt at the time, and then in the sort of 30 years since, I haven't been able to get it. And to be honest, I thought I never would get it. But there's other shirts that in my childhood I probably, or even adolescence, probably didn't think I'd ever get, and ended up being able to get or have looked at. For me, that's the essence of what a Holy Grail shirt is. It's one that you really want for whatever reason, really. It could be a memory, a goal, a player that sticks out in your mind, or just a shirt, just a shirt that you loved and sort of probably didn't appreciate at the time, or maybe had, but then it's
lost.
gone.
Yeah, I get you, yeah.
So for me, I think there's quite a few Grail shirts. It won't surprise you.
Yeah.
Quite a few of them go back to the 90s as well. And what I will do in the edit of this video, I'll drop in the pictures of these so that you can judge for yourselves. The first one for me, actually, is a couple of England ones. But Italia 90, the third kit, the sky blue third kit.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had the white and the red away kit in Italia 90. I think the third kit only got worn maybe once or twice in history, but it is such an iconic kit with the 3 lions at the top in slightly darker blue.
Was David Batty playing in those days?
No, it's probably before David Batty. It was more David Platt, if we're looking for David.
Yeah, okay, yeah, got my Davids confused, yeah.
I know you're not a big international shirt person.
But I can appreciate an England shirt of old, yeah. Not that I would have worn them, but yeah.
Again, I don't want to repeat old material because, you know, people will probably get on at us for that, but the 90s were just such a good age. And again, Umbro obviously was the England kit supplier at the time, and they really did go all out with all their kits, but particularly England. And that third kit, I don't know if it's the rarity that it was worn. Italia 90, we've both spoken about how that was probably the first tournament that we both remember. Those things combined, perhaps, in my head, make that shirt one that I'd really like to get hold of.
What about third kit? You know, we've touched on this in a few, like third kits. Was this the kind of first third kit, which again, you know, was the fleecing of fans over the years? Was this the beginning? Get a really good shirt to hook you in and then you're done.
And again, actually, probably that's another thing that makes it so sought after for not just me, but others as well, that third kits weren't particularly prevalent then. So it is one that I'd love to get hold of.
Yeah, I like it. I was thinking, you know, more recent one, which I could probably get hold of quite easy, but a player. So when Bowen scored in the European Cup final and won West Ham the European Cup, of course.
The European Cup?
Yeah, the European Cup.
Yeah, okay.
We were there in the pub.
Yeah, we were.
So, you know, that shirt with Bowen on, you know, just thinking in a Holy Grail in terms of like a moment in time. And also for me, again, I link it to players really. So Sami Khedira.
Yeah.
Sami Khedira, Real Madrid player. And again, you know, big clubs, do we really want to be, you know, going to your Real Madrid and that sort of thing? But yeah, Sami Khedira, so I just loved him, you know, great defensive midfielder, did a job, and he scored 6 goals in his Real Madrid career. But there were some good goals. And
Carry on.
yeah, edit that out. Dog. So yeah, with him, and so that's what I'd like a shirt from, you know, like 2018 would it have been, with Real Madrid. That's what I would have liked, that shirt there. But that would be my kind of Holy Grail one, which I could probably get hold of. But
yeah. I mean, I've got a couple of England ones. Obviously, I mentioned the third kit, and the 1996 red goalie shirt as well. They had red and yellow in the Euros. We've spoken about that before. But I always see David Seaman in the red one in my eyes. Again, I've looked online. It's a couple of £100. I don't think I can really stretch to it, but I'd love to get my hands on that. I just think, again, not to cover old ground, but to cover old grounds. It's a golden age of goalie shirts. It's a golden age of just probably our childhood again. Euro 96 was the first tournament that England, on home soil, obviously in my life, but England did well again, got to the semi-finals, more penalty heartache. I would love to get my hands on that, but again, we're talking hundreds to get hands on the real one.
Should, when they're taking like photos of, you know, like in the lineup, should they have their hands behind their back or at the front?
It's an interesting question. How does it relate to the subject matter?
I'm just thinking of David Seaman, in that, when he's standing there in his red, does he have his hands in front or back? And what would you prefer?
I, being the liberal that I am, I'm going to sit on the fence on this one, so I don't really care.
Fair play. Maybe that's one for some conversation. Like, what do people think? That could be one of those, yeah.
Were there any shirts or kits that you missed out on as a child, or maybe had as a child and wish you had now?
So it was like one of the classic around like the 80s of for West Ham was the old I think it was a pony kit, and obviously we'll talk something about that in the future, with a diamond. It was a West Ham kit from like the 80s, which maybe I had at the time, I don't know. My dad never returns my call. That would have been the one. And there was some of there's like an Avco one, which I've seen I can get on the internet now, actually, an Avco one, West Ham, which is like kind of old school, when they were getting a bit thin, when you had really short shorts.
Yeah.
Shove my massive thighs. Those are two that I think from the part. And then looking at other teams as well, there was some great kits back in those days. That if you was a fan of another club, you might have liked. I mentioned already the Cantona when he wore the yellow and green one for Man United. That was a good. Some Southampton ones were like classic in those days, didn't they? You wouldn't mind some of those, but.
Yeah, so that's I think that West Ham Pony one was sort of mid-90s when Pony were at their peak, and I remember we spoke about it on an episode a few weeks ago where Southampton actually had the same template, or it was slightly different, but it had the same sort of Pony brand on it. And yeah, we are going to come on to brands at some point, and I think Pony will get a good shout out then.
Definitely.
I've got another one, actually, another Oldham Athletic one, which is the 95-96 home shirt. I've got the away one, which is an orange number. Again, I think Chelsea had the same or similar away kit at the time. But the home shirt, I just thought was an absolute work of art. That's the first season after relegation for Oldham, so not quite sure why I lust after it so much. Umbro again, but was a really lovely shirt. And actually to sort of take it round and think about other clubs that I like to follow. Southampton, the 2003-2004 third shirt, again a third shirt. Thirds, I think, they're a bit like goalie shirts to some extent, in that they're a bit of free reign to do what you want with.
You're part of the problem. You are why there's so many shirts around.
But there is a reason that I like that one. One, it was like made in-house. Saints Leisure was the brand.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And two, it was the FA Cup final shirt. Although we lost the FA Cup final to Arsenal that year, it was the shirt we wore in the final. And me, my dad and my brother went to the cup final. That was when they were being played at the Millennium Stadium in Cardiff.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to get a hold of that shirt again, because it was, a third shirt again. And I don't know, I think yellow and blue, mainly yellow with a bit of royal blue on, is a great colourway as well. You don't see it enough.
Leeds used to have that in one of their kits, I'm sure, back in the day. But yeah.
We won't talk about that.
Sorry.
So, have you ever been close to buying it? Because I've not, I don't want to talk about how much these things cost, but some of them are ridiculous. Have you ever been close to hovering over the buy now button on a classic shirt and bottled it at the last moment?
Well,
I've done it a few times.
Yeah, I know you have. Yeah, no. Let's just say on the scale of the subculture that you represent, we're on different ends of that. I have looked on classic football shirts and seen some of the ones from the past. I thought, is this going to be that was like 80 quid.
Yeah.
I was like, but no, as in my fiscal conservative mind says no. And then I bought 2 or 3 different shirts instead, which you could do in those days. So yeah, I've never been that close like you have here in the secret that we have about how much that cost. So yeah, never been there. But you obviously have, and you're funding the habit with these Grail shirts, yeah. Yeah,
well, and I have, as I said, I have had things in the basket and hovered over the buy bit and then gone, no, actually, I can't really do that. So I guess we're going to be close to closing up today. Just want to close really with again, just to recap what we said at the start. Based on our discussion, actually, what do you think it is that makes a Grail shirt for you? Is it a player or a memory or
Yeah, I think it's harking back to simpler times, you know, when we were younger, you know, when football was all big, because, you know, you used to go to stadiums, it was, you know, massive places because you were so small. It is events as well, so, you know, when West Ham have done something at a certain time, usually getting relegated. You know, you hark back to those, you know, those different sort of times. So that's where I think the Grail shirts are, you know, for, like, let's say football supporters of teams like ours that aren't necessarily always successful. But then there are the ones around, you know, individual players, so players that we can all look at, you know, Lionel Messi, Ronaldo, you know, Cantona, those sort of like big players. And I think, you know, that is where you move away from the club colours and then you move on to an individual that embodied that shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. And we spoke a bit at the start about, for me, what makes a Grail shirt is just that longing to get it. It almost doesn't matter why, and whether it's the design or the player or whatever, it's just something that you've always wanted. And I do think there's some value as well in actually never being able to get them. That's probably what makes it something that's so sought after in your head, actually, not being able to get it. And certainly, I'm sure at the end of my long and illustrious career of shirt collecting, there will be shirts that I never end up getting, and maybe that's better for my marriage if I don't.
Can you leave some in my will? I assume I'll outlive you.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are going to close for today. Just to say, you know, obviously we've been discussing our thoughts and our Grail shirts today. We'd love to hear from you. What do you think makes something a Holy Grail shirt? And what are those shirts that are missing from your collection that you'd love to get hold of? Or have you ever been close to getting hold of them and lost out for some reason? Next week, we're going to have a deeper dive into some of the brands in my collection. So we're going to look at, you know, again, I feel like these themes have come up quite a lot over previous episodes. We're going to have a closer look at some of the brands and really talk about our favourite brands and why, and what makes them so good, or perhaps not so good, in fact. Sign off with the usual call to action, really, just to say, if you like what you see, please do like and subscribe. It does help us. And will help get this out to more people. Do get involved in the conversation as well. We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And as I've said before, we are on Instagram, which is at Shirts and Giggles UK, and we are also on Facebook, which is at Shirts and Giggles. So please, if you're on either of those platforms, do get on there and do give us a like and a follow. Your support and your love is much appreciated. Please do get involved. But for today, we're going to say goodbye. So John,
goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me as well. Thank you for watching.